The View is live. Electile dysfunction? Why is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell so opposed to giving you the day off to vote on Election Day?
Just what America needs, another paid holiday.
Plus, could he be the first openly gay president in American history? South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg is live on The View. And imagine finding out your father was a serial killer. ABC News correspondent Deborah Roberts has a first look at her interview with the daughter of the notorious BTK killer. Hot topics are on the table with Whoopi, Abby Huntsman, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, and Meghan McCain. Now, let's get things started.
Thank you all you guys that came outside when it's cold and you know what. Yeah, because we are in the midst of a polar vortex.
Yeah.
It is the vortex of polar. And that is where and y'all stood outside and you came in, and thank you for doing that from all of us to you guys. Thank you.
That's impressive.
I know.
It's really kind of a really lovely thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's cold in New York, but I was speaking to friends, you know, in Michigan and Chicago.
I'm wearing Spanx under my Spanx.
Yeah, it's like negative 41.
Yeah,
and,
my sister Sydney lives in Wisconsin. And it's like negative 40.
In the Dakotas.
Yeah.
You know, it's just why go outside?
Disrespectful to all of us.
I know. It's like,
I'm from the desert. I will take 120 over this crap any day.
it's really.
It really. I'm not being a baby about it. It's real.
I mean, I know I talk about my chickens all the time, but I was terrified. I was like,
Where do they go today?
Well, I mean, they're in the coop, but I was like putting plastic up, and I was like crazy.
All over their fur.
Yeah,
Poor thing.
Freezing.
If Sonny's chicken freezes up, I'm not coming to work because you'll be so sad.
I'd be crazy.
I know.
Yeah, but more fried chicken. Anyway. I'm just funning. So, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has strong reaction to a Democratic anti-corruption bill, which includes making Election Day a paid holiday so Americans can vote and time off so people can volunteer locally during election season. And this is his take on that.
Just what America needs, another paid holiday and a bunch of government workers being paid to go out and work. I assume our colleagues on the other side, on their campaigns. This is the Democrat plan to restore democracy? A brand new week of paid vacation for every federal employee who'd like to hover around while you cast your ballot? A power grab that's smelling more and more like exactly what it is.
Now, I think Election Day should be off. We've talked about that here. It's a good thing. And Mitch, I know this is going to come as a shock, but Republicans vote too, and they could use, that's good for them too. And it does make democracy better because it gives everybody the ability to not have to worry about how to go vote and go to work. So I don't know why this only works on one side. I mean, I know Republicans who actually do vote. So what is he talking? You vote.
And some of them are federal workers.
Who said at the table?
Well, they don't want the demographics are changing, and there are more people of Hispanic heritage and African American who are coming in, and they don't like that because they don't vote Republican.
Yeah, but you don't run scared from that. If anything, you should say maybe we should change some of our messaging so that we can get more federal workers to vote Republican.
But they have to forget the messaging. They have to change their policies.
It's also very tone deaf, given the fact that federal workers haven't been paid for like like, over a month after the shutdown. So it was terribly tone deaf. But what was interesting to me was that voter turnout in the U.S. is among the lowest in the world.
Yes.
Because the United States is one of the few countries that holds elections on a work day.
Yeah.
Most countries hold them on a Sunday, in fact. So why not perhaps do that?
Yeah.
Want to know why Tuesday?
Why Tuesday?
It's expensive also to do
my
it
old co-host, Jacob Sobroff, had a whole organization called Why Tuesday, and it's because in 1845 we traveled by horse and buggy, and farmers needed a day to get to the county seat, a day to vote, and a day to get back without interfering with the 3 days. So it had to do with being traveling by horse and buggy.
That's the
So
only
that's how
reason.
dated
Well, maybe
our
we
voting
return to horse and
context
buggy, that will work again. But I have to comment on the comment.
I have a little more to say.
I have a comment on power grab. This is the definition of chutzpah. When Mitch McConnell talks about the Democrats having a power grab, when he's the one who put Merrick Garland in there, out of sync, and did not allow. Are you killing a dime over there?
All right.
Is that what happened to Joyce?
When I think about Why Tuesday, I thought...
She gets this off the clips. But anyway, remember what he did. I mean, he did not allow Merrick Garland to go through when Obama was president. He pushed that. That's a power grab, not changing election day.
Yeah.
I think the reasoning is that there's other pork attached to this bill, and one of the things attached to this anti-corruption would be that it would prevent members of Congress from using taxpayer funds to settle sexual misconduct lawsuits. There are other things attached to it, which is why I'm always against pork attached to any bills whatsoever, because people don't necessarily know what they're voting for. But I think if you go to the average American in here and say, hey, look, you're not going to have to pay for a babysitter, make it on a Saturday or Sunday, let's make it a national holiday. You know that I want people to be fine not to vote. Like, I'm for Australia's way of voting at this point, that if you don't vote, you're fine.
I'm
like,
also
you're forced to.
And you know what also is attached to that bill?
F-I-N-E-D, fine.
Fine.
Not fine.
You know what
I'm
also?
sorry. F-I-N-E-D.
What's also attached to the bill is that it will require presidential and vice presidential candidates to produce 10 years of tax returns. I would like that.
Well,
I would like that.
But here's the deal. But the truth of the matter is, let's start with something everybody can agree on.
Yeah.
Tuesday doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
People are spending. We watch folks try to get to work, try to vote, try to do all that. So why not make it for everybody? And Democrats, Independents, Republicans, everybody can vote on the same day. If we can start with that, I bet we could get through all the crap.
Isn't there a Chris Rock has a quote that says, you ever throw a party on a Tuesday? No, because nobody would ever come.
Can I just quickly point out, though, that...
Isn't there a push for early voting now? So everybody can vote early.
Yeah, but you can't vote on a weekday. You have to stop this. You have to stop.
That's not.
Well, no, you can't do that. No, it's not going to solve all the problems, but it will solve one.
Yeah.
And I'm all for one at a time. If that's what it takes, if we have to do this one step at a time, I'll do it. That's something we can all agree on. We'll be right back. Okay, we'll be right back.
So there's a big election coming, and the question on everyone's mind is...
Are you a contender in 2020? You're going to run for president.
Are you going to run for president?
Are you going to run for president?
Well, look,
With so much on the line, the newsmakers come here because...
This is the best place to do it!
In this epic year ahead.
Anybody who wants to make it to the next level in politics has to come on this show.
Because this is the place to be heard.
if you're a Republican and you want to make news, come on this show.
It's Weird Review on ABC. Later, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg talks about his plan to become the first openly gay U.S. president. And ABC News correspondent Deborah Roberts has a preview of her interview with the woman who found out her father was the BTK serial killer.
Hey, welcome back. Did you know that today is Jackie Robinson's birthday, and he would have been 100 today? Hey, great. Wow. You got a birthday, too, huh?
Today is my father's 70th birthday. So, happy birthday, Dad.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to see him later on today. So, happy birthday, Dad.
Aww.
And, you know, happy birthday to Justin Timberlake, who posted a video of his early celebration last night that featured his wife passed out on the way to his birthday dinner. You know, they have you know, who knows why she's asleep? She might have a job. She might be one of those people who falls asleep in the car. You never know. But do we know anyone at the table who can relate to, I don't know, folks missing a celebration? Anybody?
Well, right. I mean, in full disclosure, today I'm like barely surviving because I was up all night I was just playing whoopee with a child with 105 fever.
I know.
And like, look, no matter what your job is or what your life is, being a mom is not easy. And so I watched that and I saw Jessica Biel, and even though she's a famous actress, I was like, she's a real person too.
Yeah.
And yes, also my husband has fallen asleep. Well, one, he didn't show up to my 21st birthday. Didn't even show up because he fell asleep. And then another birthday, he went to a happy hour before, and I said, all I want is just a dinner with the two of us. Showed up. He's a lightweight. Could not get through the dinner. So I've so been there, and I love that Justin did that because you got to poke fun at life. This is real. Yeah.
I have a best friend whose ex-husband forgot her birthday every year.
Every year?
Almost every year. So my husband and I would just buy her birthday gifts for him and then give them to him for her, which I realize now we enabled him for like 15 years. And she was like, you give the best gifts. And I was like, yeah.
Are they still married?
And they got divorced anyway.
Yeah.
Well out.
Yeah. Maybe that was the problem.
But it was just something he would just never remember occasions, ever.
Well, here on to the next subject.
Right.
The secret to great sex is as simple as hearing your partner compliment your body, according to a study published in the Journal of Sex and Marriage Therapy. Seriously? That's all it is?
Well, yeah. I mean, if they compliment your lasagna, these panties are not coming off.
Yeah, I know.
See, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. If you tell me I'm great at what I do,
No. Not in those moments.
these panties would move.
Oh my
It's hard to get them down because they're attached to everything. But this is what they are saying, that if your partner gives you a compliment, I guess it makes it hotter, makes the sex hotter, which seems like a lot of pressure. Every time to say, hey, you know, every time. What if you run out of stuff to say? You are so.
Nothing.
You know. I mean, that means that you're not going to get, I think
I'm going to wait for the compliment.
It shows you that women are insecure about, this is why we walk out of the room backwards when we're naked. Oh my God. I mean,
I used to keep the covers like this.
Walk out backwards. That's how you do it. You walk out backwards. You don't turn your back when you're naked on a man. Let him see you from the front. And then it's all
it's too hard to kick the girls out the way.
Get it, like this? No?
If you're going backwards, you're just kicking them up and hitting them in the face. It's rough. We'll be right back.
He's a military veteran, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and wants to be the first openly gay president in U.S. history. Democratic candidate Pete Buttigieg is live on The View with his plan to blaze a trail all the way to the White House next.
Pete Buttigieg has served in the military, is currently serving as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and wants to serve as your next president. He's also the first openly gay presidential candidate, I guess, in the U.S.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. So please welcome Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
He's the first gay candidate that we know of.
True. That we know of.
As I said, that's what he's up to right now, okay? So, Washington Post called you the most interesting mayor you've never heard of. For all of those who don't know you just yet, tell us a little bit quickly about you.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in South Bend. A lot of people know about Notre Dame, but there's a lot more to South Bend than that. We were really an auto town. We're characteristic of the industrial Midwest. It's a great community. Grew up there, left for a while, had a career in business, the military, as you said. Live with my husband and 2 dogs, pretty close to my parents, and I've really been proud over the last 7 years and change to serve our city. It's a city going through a real turnaround. At the beginning of the decade, they said we were a dying city, and now we're growing again. More people are moving into the core of the city. It's got this energy, this life to it. And my hope is people can realize that there's a lot of other Midwestern communities like that. We're not all looking backwards. It's not all about nostalgia for us. We believe in our future. But that means letting go of some of the things in the past that are not going to come back.
And you're only 37 years old.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people sitting right in your seat just recently, even this week, who think it's their time, their moment to go up against President Trump and prevail. He already got through 2016 against how many Republicans and one of the biggest names we know in politics, Hillary Clinton. What makes you the guy to beat him, and what would your strategy be?
Well, I think people are looking for something entirely new. And you know, the question of how old
Wasn't he that?
What's that?
Wasn't he that?
In a way, yes, and I think that's part of how he succeeded. You know, it got to the point where our party, my party, the Democratic Party, looked like we were the ones saying the system was fine. And so a lot of people went to vote for him, basically voting to burn the house down just because they were so upset about how the system had let them down. And that's especially true in communities like mine in the industrial Midwest. Look, I think we need bold ideas. We need a different perspective. And I think it's not a bad thing to come from a different generation. You know, my generation is the one, our generation is the one that provided most of the troops after 9/11. We're the generation that grew up with school shootings as the norm. We're the generation that's going to pay the bill for some of these tax policies right now. And we're the ones that are going to be living through the impacts of climate change that are accelerating as we speak. So if you're thinking about what the world's going to look like in 2054, which is when I will be the current age of the current president, you just have a different sense of urgency around some of these issues because they're not somebody else's problem. They're personal.
But do you think, realistically, do you think this country is ready for a gay president?
Well, there's only one way to find out. You know... When I came out, it was 2015. We were in the middle of a re-election campaign. It was one of the, I was ready. You know, you're ready when you're ready, and I wanted to have a personal life. And it was not obvious that that was going to be a safe thing to do. It was in Indiana. Mike Pence was the governor at the time. And I wound up getting re-elected with 80% of the vote. So I think people will evaluate you for the job that you do.
I hope so.
Is your dog on board?
What's that?
Is your dog on board?
Yeah. Truman's on board. We're still not buddy, but I think he'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm really happy you're here because I think you're a really interesting voice in the Democratic Party, but 3 of the up-and-coming freshman Congress members of the House who were just elected, Congresswoman Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Congresswoman Tlaib, have been outspoken critics of Israel's treatment of Palestinians, and Congresswoman Omar recently just said that she compared Israel to Iran, and the relationship between the United States and Israel, I believe, is a battleground issue for Democrats going forward in this next election cycle. I actually don't think it's going to be the Middle East. I think it's going to be Israel. Where do you stand on the issue of Israel?
Well, I disagree with the comments comparing Israel to Iran. Okay, people like me get strung up in Iran. So the idea that what's going on is equivalent is just wrong. Now, what I will say is it's a complicated picture. I was in Israel in May of this year, and not only is there a real problem with their long term, how they're going to balance being a democracy with being a Jewish state, but they've also got to figure out, and we've got to figure out with them as an ally, what the regional security picture is going to look like in the future. We were just a couple miles from Gaza, and the general who was briefing our delegation said what they were worried about most is Iran, beyond even what's going on with the Palestinians. It has always been one of the most fiendishly complicated issues, and simple answers will not serve us well at a time like this.
So, I went to law school at Notre Dame. I'm a domer. So I lived in South Bend for 3 years before you were mayor. And I spent a lot of time there since then. And it's not quite a small town, but it's not a big city either, because I think the population is about 107,000 at last count. How does being the mayor of South Bend translate to becoming president of the United States.
So the thing about, let me put the question a different way. Are we sure that being a member of the United States Congress right now is a better preparation than leading a city of any size, especially a community like ours going through a really challenging transformation? When you were a mayor, you get the call. It could be anything from a problem at the zoo to an airplane crashing into a neighborhood to an officer-involved shooting with racial tension all around it to who's going to be there for lighting up the Christmas tree to just plowing
But you're
snow.
not involved in international questions.
Yeah.
No, but I felt pretty involved in international questions when I was deployed to Afghanistan. I mean, I experienced foreign
Right,
policy
true.
on, you know, at the
I would say that.
So I do have a question, because one of the problems I have with young folks coming in is they always seem to forget that the group that came before you fought to make sure that all of the environmental issues were being dealt with. We fought to make sure that black lung was no longer a guarantee if you worked in the mines. We fought to make sure that the country, we were leaving a better country. And I really want, as being older than you, I want you to keep in mind that when you talk about all the things you want to see and how we're looking to the future, because I'm thinking about my great-granddaughter, who's 4 now. Okay, I'm thinking about what we've done for women, all of the ceilings that we broke, all the marches that we did, all the conversations that we have. Please don't forget that before you, there was us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I?
Absolutely. And look, anybody my age who wants to make change knows that we are standing on the shoulders of giants. And
I hope so.
No,
I don't always feel like that's the case, and it goes to some of the freshman folks that are coming in and things that they've said about the people, like John Lewis. You know, you can't doubt what he did,
right.
but when people say, well, you know, the Democrats didn't really do much, and we're going to do, it's like, wait a minute. So.
Yeah. You know, one of the things we found in South Bend, actually, when I was running, I was still in my 20s then, was that actually some of the voters who responded most powerfully to the idea of a young candidate were seniors. They were a really important part of our base.
Yes.
So I talk a lot about intergenerational justice between generations. I think it's in many ways the issue of 2020, but I also think there's chances for an intergenerational alliance. You look at the Parkland kids out there, their parents and grandparents are at their side cheering them on. So whether it's that issue or another issue.
That's what other cultures do.
Yeah.
Like living in China.
Alliance. I like that part.
It doesn't have to be like 68 where the generations are fighting each other.
No.
So, Mayor, I am so sorry to hear that your father, Joseph, passed away on Sunday. I'm very sorry to hear that. Obviously, you know that my father passed as well. How did he feel about your decision to run for president?
He was proud. It's one of the last things we talked about when I was getting ready to go do the launch. I told him I hoped I would make him proud, and he was on a ventilator by then, but around it, he mouthed the words, "You will." And we had a notepad so we could still communicate in Latin. Sorry, this is pretty fresh.
It's hard.
And by the way, I really admire the way that you have dealt with losing your father. It's a territory of loss that I'm kind of exploring for the first time. But as I'm sure you found, and I've begun to find too, you hear from all these people he touched. He was a professor, so I hear from his students, his colleagues, and you begin to realize just how many, it's almost like you get a new family. Like I have new siblings in all of his students who, you know, I was shaped by him in one way and they were shaped by him in another. But, you know, he was proud. He wanted, I'm here. I thought hard about coming here, but I'm here because I knew he would want me to be. So wherever he is, I don't know if you get ABC over there, but hopefully he's...
they do.
They do. Thank you very much for sharing that, and I am very sorry. You're an interesting Democratic. You are. You're an interesting voice. I like some of the stuff.
You're
I'm
also very
hearing.
calming.
Yes. I mean, I know there's generational things, but
Well, no, it's not that there's generational things. I just always want...
I share the same sentiments you do on that.
Yes, I know. That's what, you know, I just...
He went to Harvard instead of Notre Dame, but it's okay.
I want us all to be on the same track of making the country better. And whether you're older, younger, middle, shouldn't matter. Our ages shouldn't matter if our goal is to make it better. I think you're trying to do a great thing, and I say, okay for you. Our thanks to Mayor Pete Buttigieg. His book, Shortest Way Home, is available for pre-order right now, and we, of course, will be back.
Plunkett.com.
fellow EGOT winner, John Legend, has accomplished a lot, but there's one thing he hasn't gotten around to, so he's learning to swim at 40 years old. He's showing people it's never too late to try something new, especially if it can save your life if you fall in the pool.
I know.
But there are people at the table who don't swim.
Sunny takes swim lessons.
I've been taking swim lessons on
25
Sunday
years.
for 3 years. I know. You know, I now can float, and I can swim forward and backwards. So I thought that I thought I knew how to swim. I swim at the Y, so I signed up for the intermediate class. I went, and they sent me back to the beginner class.
Sunny, can I join you?
Yes.
One thing Sunny and I have in common, we're both terrible swimmers. And I feel like I'm the one at this table that has the most, like, sad stories of growing up. But my mom put me in a swim meet because someone backed out, and I was such a bad swimmer. She didn't buy me goggles. You know, it's a very serious with the lane, and you got to stay in your lane. Goggles. And I was trying. So I just remember being underwater. I was getting to the finish, and apparently I was going like this through everyone else's lane. Everyone had already finished, and when I got to the end, like, my head came out of the water. I thought I'd finished first, and because everyone was on their feet clapping, and they felt so sorry for me that it had taken me so long to get to the end. Since that moment, like, I have a really hard time getting. It was such a horrifying, embarrassing experience for me. Like, the boys my age that I had crushes on made fun of me. It was
I was like, if there's some scenario where the view's on a boat that sinks, Whoopi and I gotta save everybody's butts from it because we're the only strong swimmers.
It's the treaded water. Well, my mom wouldn't let me swim because she said the public.
Whoopi and we're gonna be the ones I'm gonna be like, hang on. Here we go.
We didn't learn how to swim when we were kids.
I don't know how to swim. I don't go near water. I don't even take a bath, frankly. I don't go near a pool. I don't go near the beach.
Why didn't you learn how to swim as a kid?
Because somebody drowned at Lake Ronkonkoma, and my mother said, "That's it. You're not swimming."
Exactly.
That's a trace of fact.
My mom had the opposite reaction.
You can't be a nurse. Too many germs.
This is gonna come as a great shock to you, but my dad threw me at the deep end and was like, "She'll figure it out. She'll figure it out. Keep swimming. I'll watch her."
My mom claimed
breathing is hard.
My mother claimed that the public pools had germs and perverts, so I couldn't go swim.
Perverts.
That's what she said. So I couldn't go to the public pool to swim. Thanks, Mom. I don't know. That's what she said, and I believed it.
I can scuba dive and snorkel and
rub it in. Rub it in.
I didn't know Whoopi and I are the only people that swim on the
three of us at this table are out.
Okay, big deal. You're not a neurophysicist.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna drown if crap goes down, which it might. We're living in Trump's presidency.
I feel like I'm drowning now. We'll be right back.
That's gonna happen.
How would you handle finding out that the serial killer terrifying America for decades was your father? ABC News correspondent Deborah Roberts has a first look at her interview with the daughter of the BTK killer next. Tomorrow on The View, you know the hot topics are out of control because
it's Friday.
It's Friday! And the weekend starts early with Will Arnett bringing the laughs. TGIF. Tomorrow on The View on
He calls himself the BTK Strangler.
BTK was a monster.
Come if you call my name.
My father's a good guy, Boy Scout leader, president of the church, and then there's a knock on my door. He says, "Your dad has been arrested as BTK." I was like, I think I'm gonna pass out.
He would break into someone's home, hide in a closet, wait hours, and then attack. To this day, I still check inside the closets. Was I gonna be the next victim?
Just unbelievable.
Dennis Rader is one of America's most infamous serial killers who brutally murdered 10 people while taunting the police with letters signed BTK, short for a blind, tortured kill. Tomorrow night on 2020, Deborah Roberts sits down with a woman who only knew him as dad until the day the FBI knocked on her door. Please welcome Deborah Roberts. You sat down with his daughter, Carrie, and she talks about him as just her dad.
That's how she grew up, with him as her dad. You heard her say he was a church president. He was a Boy Scout leader. He walked her down the aisle at her wedding, took her off to college. He was just an ordinary man in an ordinary Midwest community.
Right.
And she finds this out at age 26, 1 year after she'd gotten married. Her world was just like blown apart.
Now, what is it about this time? Because we were talking yesterday about Ted Bundy. So we're talking about Ted Bundy yesterday. He was doing around the same time, 70s and 80s. There were many serial killers floating. Was it something in the air? Was it, what the hell?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Killer. Yes, there was a whole bunch.
In this case, Dennis Rader was sort of affected by all of this stuff. He was fascinated in a very sick way. He admired Ted Bundy. He admired, you know, a lot of these other killers, Boston Strangler.
Right.
He was just a very sick man, masquerading as the guy next door.
Wow.
The last person police would ever think to look for.
Wow.
He was also doing this in Wichita, was it?
Wichita.
For how many years?
For 3 decades, 30 years.
Okay.
Even before she was born.
Yeah. And people are wondering, I'm wondering, how do you get away with that? No one knows that you're a serial. There were no red flags, nothing?
Well, when you think about it, I mean, obviously today we have so much more knowledge and there's like forensics evidence and all of this. But at that time, you know, I mean, they had very rudimentary kinds of things that they were dealing with. And also, too, he was just the guy at the grocery store, in the movies, at the church.
A wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah,
and then you asked the daughter about that exact question. We have a clip of that. Let's watch that.
Do you think your mom had any clue that your dad was doing anything criminal?
No, Mom and I both said if we had had an inkling that my father had harmed anyone, let alone murdered anyone, let alone 10, we would have gone screaming out that door to the police station. We were living our normal life. We looked like a normal American family because we were a normal family. And then everything upended on us.
If his family had no idea what he was up to or even saw any evidence of this over 30 years, it really makes you question, how well do you know anyone?
Wow. So even now, looking back, she's now, you know, sometimes hindsight is 20/20.
Very nice, Joy.
So is there anything now that you can come up with?
Well, no, because she was a child, and in her book, A Serial Killer's Daughter, which is so fascinating, and I know, Whoopi, you said you're actually listening to it. She was a child. I mean, what children go snooping around your parents' rooms or maybe suspecting your father? There was no reason for her to think anything other than, you know, he had a hair-trigger temper every now and again, but what parent maybe doesn't?
Didn't he try to strangle one of his kids?
Well, one time he snapped. He was upset about something in the house, and that's one thing she looks back on. Now, though, when she looks back, she says there was a certain amount of paranoia that he displayed sometimes. Now, when she looks back, she thinks maybe he was worried he was about to be caught.
You know, Deborah, not only did he hide this from his family, but the police as well for 30 years, which is just mind-blowing to me. He was finally arrested in 2005. How did they finally catch him?
Well, what was so interesting about it is he played this game of cat and mouse, not only with the police, but with television stations. He would write letters. He would taunt them. Well, he really, and over years, maybe he stopped for a little while, then he'd do it again. Well, his hubris sort of caught up with him. He wanted to be known for this killing, and so, or all these killings. So he sent a floppy disk to one of the TV stations just to sort of like show them a little test. Well, what he didn't know is that it was encrypted at the church. It had it had some information from the church where he worked, and they were able to actually trace it to the church and get some DNA evidence and eventually pin it on this man that nobody would have ever expected.
Did he plead guilty right away, or did he say, no, I didn't do it?
He pled guilty right away and confessed in a very dramatic fashion in courtroom. And on 2020, you'll see just jaw-dropping testimony or just comments from him in court, almost blasé bragging about the victim.
I remember, because he was like, I put him down, like putting down a dog.
Yes. Or he felt sorry for them, or he even offered a pillow to one of his victims before because he knew that he had back problems. Very, very sick. But for Carrie, this is very difficult because that's not the man she knew. She loved her father.
Well, he is serving, I think, 10 consecutive life sentences at the El Dorado Correctional Facility in Kansas. But does she have any contact with him? Has she visited him?
She has not visited him. She has not brought herself to do that, but she has written him letters over the years, and she has been in contact. She says that she would probably lose her mind if she just accepted that her father was a serial killer. She has to hold on to some of those memories of her happy childhood. childhood.
Well,
and
she has to.
She has two of her own kids, and she's had to grapple with
two young kids
with knowing that her own dad killed two kids.
And that we're in a world of social media where one day they're going to be able to find out all of this, which is why she says she wrote this book.
Does she still love him?
She still loves her father. She says that it is very difficult, but she loves the man who raised her, not the man that she learned about later on. She loves the man who raised her, and she hopes that he can be forgiven.
Does she worry about tendencies?
Yeah.
That's a very good question, and I asked her about that. She does not worry about that, and I think she can't let her mind go there. She says, I've never even had a traffic ticket. I'm not the kind of person who ever has had any kind of a problem. So she doesn't think that that's something for her to worry about or for her children. She thinks it's just one of those rare, bizarre situations, unfortunately, that befell her family. A fascinating woman and a very brave woman, I have to tell you.
And a woman in therapy, I hope.
Yes. A lot of therapy, but also in a place of sort of forgiveness and trying to move on with her life. And this is, for her, a chance to finally let it all go.
Wow. Well,
Can't imagine.
thanks to Deborah Roberts. The 2022 hour special, My Father, BTK, airs tomorrow night at 9 p.m. right here on ABC. And get the book. It is fascinating. It is fascinating. We'll be right back.
Tomorrow, funny man Will Arnett on how the Lego Movie 2
No, it did not.
builds on the original.
Hey, welcome back. Ab, what's in the bowl?
All right, this is exciting. So it's almost Valentine's Day, if you can believe it. And we are upping your game this Valentine's Day with a gift that was literally made just for the ones that you love. Take a look at these. My M&Ms lets you customize and personalize M&Ms with colors, pictures, and messages just like these that were made, yes, for the view table. And customizing and ordering is a breeze. So you can give a meaningful V-Day experience for your loved ones or yourself. They can keep it together.
I have to eat it. It looks delicious. Sorry.
And of course, a big thanks to My M&M viewers. Viewers at home, you can use the code THEVIEW30 on the My M&M's website for 30% off their purchase. And members of our audience are going home with a voucher for up to $100.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming on this very cold day. We want you to have a great day and take a little time and enjoy.